Hi, welcome to episode 138 of Fresh Air at 5. This Fresh Air at 5 episode is going to have an announcement that I'm going to try something new that I am going to put into these show notes, and you'll have to go check it out. All right, you know how I talk about all these podcasts, and well, maybe you just want to go listen to those podcasts. Well, my friend Tim Cavey made a suggestion to me that I start putting links to Spotify in all my podcast show notes, as opposed to just whatever I can find the podcast, like your website, other places like that, Apple or things like that, because he's like, everybody can get to Spotify. And so I started doing that. And then I had this brain wave. This week, I started thinking about, well, what about a playlist? What if I put my podcast, this one you're listening to right now, at the top of that playlist, and then all the podcasts that I listened to this week, if they're on Spotify, nearly everything that I listen to is on Spotify. So let's make a playlist for episode 138. So coming to you now is episode 138, Fresh Air at 5 on Spotify. You can look it up and you can take a listen to everything that I have listened to this week, or skip it, move ahead, find something that's good to listen to for yourself, but I'm going to collate it there. All right, this is a long intro. I hope that made sense. Hey, tell a friend about what you're listening to now. Subscribe if you're not listening to it already. And be sure to spread the word about all the prody that you do by listening to podcasts. Have a fab day. All right. Oh, hey, here's Fresh Air at 5, episode 138.
I'm Chris Nessie, host of Behind the Mic, Voices of the EPN, a part of the Education Podcast Network. Just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to exercise by walking about my neighborhood, to take in podcast content, then reflect in an unedited video, which I finally post to my Twitter channel. This podcast will be a regular collection of the audio from these selfie videos. You can follow me on Twitter at Fresh Air at 5, or check out my website, briancarpenter.com, for other content I have created and collected. Hey, PLN, good morning. It is September 18, 2023, at the top of episode 138 of Fresh Air at 5. Out recording this morning, and it has rained overnight. Fortunately, it's not raining right now, so the earth got wet. It's 11 degrees Celsius and a beautiful morning. I'm inspired. I'm excited. Got up early. Well, at normal time, and didn't have a struggle getting out of bed. My boy's on his way to work, and here we are talking to you on the podcast. So thanks for listening. I do really appreciate it. I don't say it as often enough, but I so much appreciate you taking time to listen to my daily here on Twitter. That if you're listening to this on Twitter, then also the podcast that I spin together at the end of the week, on a Friday that comes out on, midnight on Friday night, that you can listen to on the weekend or so. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen. It means a lot to me. All right, as we're walking this morning, I listened to episode 2 of Behind the Mic, the Voices of the Educational Podcast Network. I am a member of that podcast network, and Chris Nessie, the founder, he has taken time to interview us podcasters to hear our backstory, hear what's going on. He talked on episode 2 with Dr. Matt Wood of Leading Out the Woods. It's, yes, you'll have to listen to hear why it's called Leading Out the Woods. That's his podcast. He talks about leadership. He talks with educators. He talks about all matter of things in education. He has 2 young kids. He's a book author for, he writes some children's books about I Want to Be, and helping his son see where he can go in the world. He's, got a book with Dr. Sam Fessich called Digital PD for Educators. And how can we use mediums like podcasting, just like this, to learn stuff. And, I am so thankful that I've taken to digital professional development like this, that I can learn as I'm walking and puts it into my head in a different way. All right, Matt, good to hear from you. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it so much. Take a listen to Leading Out the Woods with Dr. Matt Woods. Okay, bye. The last thing for September 18, 2023 for Fresh Air at 5. Here we are. I listened to episode 159 of Tech Tools for Teachers, and Shanna Martin and Fuzz Martin bring us some AI tools. It's called AI Part 1. It's the name of the episode. And she said, well, she could throw a bunch of stuff at us in this Tech Tools for Teachers podcast, but she wasn't going to. She's going to spread them out. Because my capacity, like many others, Shanna, is that I can't take in 25 things well. I can only take in 1 or 2. And so I appreciate what you brought today, because you brought us magicschool.ai as a tool for teachers in the classroom for time saving on some tasks, rubric generators, other things that are difficult and take time for us to do, to give us a starting point so that we can tweak whatever comes out. Unit plan generators, lists, things like that. This sounds like the Flippity of like AI tools. And saying that, I wonder what Flippity's going to do with AI now that AI is around. But it provides us with a number of different things. The one thing that I'm going to check out is the rubric generator, because that is something that I struggle, because I am not a rubric guy. It's a right or wrong, and here's your answer out of 100 things, and that's your mark. But a rubric generator is important because of, our proficiency scale and using our standards for looking at student proficiency and growth over time. So that's there. Another one, and this was courtesy of Shanna's daughter at college. She found Notion.so, and I don't know what the SO stands for. It's another extension for a website, but it is different than magicschool.ai, and provides students, probably high school students, with some tools that they can use for organization and productivity. Checking these things out, Shanna. Appreciate it. Thanks, Fuzz. Have a fab day. I'm sure going to. Here we go. Okay, bye-bye. Hey, PLN, September 19, 2023. Good morning to you, and I hope you're doing well. It is about 10 degrees Celsius. The nights are cooling off now, which is part of what happens when we get into the fall, and that's a good thing, because we have our nature cycles, our seasons, and this is moving into the fall season, which is an exciting time, because then it's the winter season, and before long it'll be back to spring, and we can go fishing for fish on the lakes, because they'll ice off. And okay, so I have a little bit of focus for the spring already. Not rushing it. Nope, I'm not going to rush it, because there's a whole lot of good going on right now, and we're only in week 2 of my students in the building at school, our 3rd week of school here at my school for overall, and we are doing well. We're excited. We're making progress. Students are figuring out how to get into their Microsoft accounts, Office 365, and Brightspace, and all the things that they have to learn about. And I get to see our middle school students for the first time today, so I'm super excited about that. But along with that comes many decisions. And those decisions, as Suzanne Daly talks about in season 4, episode 2 of Teach Happier, is a thing that comes along with that called decision fatigue. True story. First day of school, great. Got back, saw my colleagues, worked on some things, got home that night, and my brain was cooked. I was done. Second day, went back, had more meetings, did similar things, and I got home and I was tired. I've been to bed at like 9:00 p.m., which for me is super early, like probably 5 times in the past 2 weeks. Even on a weekend, I'd go to bed early because I was tired. I was spent. And, I didn't understand exactly why. But now that Suzanne talks about this on her podcast, I'm running out of time. I'll be right back. Hang on. One more thing for September 19, 2023. Continuing my thoughts on Teach Happier, Season 4, Episode 2. Teacher tired and decision fatigue. Suzanne talked about making decisions and how, making decisions can exhaust us, and how there's a medical study that she mentions in her podcast. Go take a look. I can't tell you the reference right now because I'm not writing it down and I can't remember it. But that, when we make many decisions, our ability to make another decision is diminished and it goes down. So as we have made many decisions, and I would probably put that up into like probably 20, maybe 30 decisions, hopefully, but not like 5 decisions. But as we make our decisions through our day, our capacity for decision making goes down. True, I got home from work this past week and I was like, I don't even want to have to think about what's for dinner. My wife's like, what do you want? And I'm like, pasta, because that's just a go-to that we have. But then it's a question of what kind of pasta. Do we have the quattro pasta? Do we have just butter with Parmesan cheese pasta? Do we have, and there's those kinds of decisions to make. I agree that we need to simplify some things. This morning I woke, the first decision I had to make was, do I snooze longer? That's one decision I've had to make. I got up, decided that I was going to go for my walk because it's part of my routine. So if I've got a routine, I don't have to make so many decisions. All right, how are you doing with your decision making? How is it going? If we can minimize those small things by having our routines in place and being kind of rigid in the way we approach, what kind of coffee do we have? When do we have that, etc. It helps with decision fatigue. All right, thanks so much. I'm going to Pokemon Go here as I've got to the top of the hill, and then I'm going to turn around and head back home. Have a great day. Okay, I will. Bye-bye. The last thing for September 19, 2023, Gabriel Creo in EdTech Bites, episode 178, brings us protein shakes and 5 ways to keep admin out of your classroom. These tips are thoughtful and commonsensical, but if you're not doing them, admin's going to come to your classroom. So you don't have to do all of them all the time, but you got to keep up with things so that admin doesn't have a negative reason to come to your classroom. Because we get excited when admin shows up at our door and is like, hey, Mr. Carpenter, just dropping in to see how things are and see what's going on. And, oh, did you fill out that form? Because if I miss it, then they're going to have a reason to come see me. That's one of the tips that Gabe made, was stay on top of deadlines, get things done so that they don't come. This is not about saying that you have a bad relationship with your admin, but if you do these things, you'll have a better relationship with your admin. And that one evidence of that is that they won't come to your classroom for negative things. I really like it when my admin comes to my classroom because I have a good relationship with my admin in my building, and they're partners in learning. They are not, they're my boss. We've got a VP and a new principal at my building now, but they are partners in education with me and not the dark side. Yeah, there's sometimes that, we have to have conversations that are heavy and more difficult, but also those heavy and difficult conversations are because they care deeply, hopefully, so hopefully your admin cares a lot. Deadlines are important, getting those things done, saying hello and free, as you pass them in passing by. And by the way, I stop in my boss's office every morning just to do a check-in, and it makes a big difference. There's 3 other reasons in here. Take a listen to Tech Bites, episode 179 with Gabe Creo as he shares. Thanks, Gabe. I like the last one. Don't do anything stupid. All right, peace, bye. Wednesday, September 2023. Good morning. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. You may notice that I'm holding the camera on the other side now, and I am pleased and glad to report that my right shoulder is now healing up, and I'm able to actually hold the camera this high for this long. And after a kayaking trip we did in the summer, my shoulder came back exhausted and spent and stressed out, and my rotator cuff muscles all kind of gave up, and so I've been recovering. Yes, I'm thankful for that. On the weekend, I'm going fly fishing, so I need my shoulder. I need this shoulder to be able to fly fish and cast. So yes, grateful for the healing and the thoughts of you that are thinking about me. As I've talked about this over the past nearly month since we got back from our trip. All right, this morning I listened to, I think it's episode 72 of Evolving with Gratitude. I will correct that if it's wrong. As Lainey Rowell talks with Dr. Jill Seiler, who is the superintendent of Gunter School Division and School District. I believe that's in Texas, as Jill talks about on the podcast, things in Texas that she has been involved with and done. So that's where I'm assuming she is right now. And thank you, Jill, for sharing with Lainey about the joy and the struggle of this job of education. It's joyful. It brings a lot of feelings of goodness, but it's hard. It is not an easy thing. And acknowledging that is super important, I believe. Not complaining about it, but just acknowledging it, that this takes effort. This takes a lot of effort. And we see people that step out because it takes too much effort. So the thing for me, I think, is that we work hard, put in the effort, and keep going longer than we think we can, and that builds up endurance and perseverance. All right, there's a lot that they talk about. Take a listen to this episode, and thank you, Jill and Lainey, for your thoughts. Have a great day. Okay, bye. The last thing for September 2023. I'm just getting home, and it's been a good walk this morning. Overcast, and it has rained overnight, so that is good. It's cooling off. And as this morning, as I'm finishing up, I listened to episode 120 of the Define University podcast with Lindsay Titus. And she brings us a guest interview with an educator from a nearby community in New York State where she works, or lives and works. And her name is Emily Carpenter. And Emily is an educator. She has been a special educator, learner educator for many years, special education, and has done many roles in that. And as she was going through her years of teaching, she started up a company called Sage, and it's about helping clients that are like 2 or 3 students a week in their homes with life skills and regulation and other things that she could do that she didn't have the capacity to do in a school, but doing those in students' homes with families, and has since stepped out to follow her true calling. So this episode is called Following Your True Calling. And, do we do that? Do we do it? We step into a job and we're committed and we're hardworking and we're like, I'm here and this is it. And then we go, this might suck, but I have to do it for a while. And I think it's important that we do our work for a while. We don't just step in and go, oh, don't feel like it. It's not me right away, because you don't know what could come out of it if you don't put some effort into it and try for a while. So that being said, it's not about, I just want to go do one thing. I just want to go be a fly fishing guide. Can't just do that. I have to stay where I am and grow into these other places. Thank you, Emily. Great to see someone with the same last name as I. And I don't think we're related at all. But yes. Thanks, Lindsay. Have a fabulous day. Bye. Hey, PLN, September 22nd, 2023. All right, I'm excited Super excited. You know I'm getting excited about things. And I'm excited because today after work, I am headed off for a fishing trip for the weekend. And I am looking forward to this opportunity. My buddy and I are heading to a lake, staying in a cabin, fishing all day Saturday, part of Sunday, maybe this afternoon when we get there, this evening when we get there. And I'm looking forward to this. So it's been one of those things on my looking forward to list. Keeps you going. This week's been full and rich. And but we're here and did a lot of great things this week at school, working with students, and we're pushing it forward. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well this Friday. All right, this morning I listened to the Wired Educator podcast with Kelly Croy, episode 233, as Kelly brings us an interview as well as a whole bunch of shout outs and book announcements and things like that you need to go take a look at. You should go listen to what Kelly has to say about, all these things that are going on with him, people around him, and Apple Distinguished Educators. So he had on Kristen Brooks, who's an Apple Distinguished Educator, and they talk about rocking an iPad in any classroom. And Kristen Brooks is a technology coach in an elementary school, in kindergarten to grade 5, and teaches all manner of iPad-related content, Chromebooks in their tech lab, and it was great to hear her enthusiasm after being in education for, I think it was like 28 years, and she's still just going. It's fantastic. It's so awesome, Kristen. I am so happy to hear that. So it was an encouraging story this morning to me about using iPads and what we can do with those things. The last thing for September 22nd, 2023. All right, I'm, talking long, and I saw the timer on the last segment, so I'm going to put that clip right here and talk to you later. Have a fabulous weekend. All right, and continuing on from the last segment that you didn't hear the end of. It was an encouraging story this morning to me about using iPads and what we can do with those things. We have iPads at my school that we use for capture devices, taking photos, videos, and, just capturing content that we can use other places like in Microsoft Teams. So they are used for those kinds of things. But using the apps directly on the iPads, we use Autodesk for drawing and things like that. Haven't done a lot with clips, but maybe that's something I should get into, and maybe iMovie with the students. The challenge is that we're a PC district and we don't have the capacity to move things around the same way. All right, I've gone overtime, and you'll have to catch this up on the podcast that comes out tonight later. All right, thanks so much. Talk to you soon. Okay, bye. As my one word for 2021 is appreciate, I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific podcast episodes in the show notes for your learning convenience. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoy this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can also be found on Voice Ed Radio. Your voice is right here, and on the Education Podcast Network, Podcasts for Educators, Podcasts by Educators. I hope you have a fantastic day and get some fresh air before the day is out, and take care of yourself because you're worth it.